Alrighty, so Heroes Arena is very interesting. I have been completing it on Challenger difficulty for the past no, I don't think it's been quite 4 weeks. Actually, no, I think it has been, no, it's been 3 weeks because we still have one more week to go. But I wanted to give some thoughts and opinions before I sort of go through like how I've been doing it and everything. Obviously, being able to beat it in Challenger is extremely difficult because you obviously don't get to use links at all. You have to beat 340 KCC if you want to go first, which is just pretty unrealistic for most players. Like basically the only people who can do that are like the very top whales with like 16 million box CC, maybe 15 million. But like you're still going to need really crazy high tier, gear and like box buffs and stuff like that to be able to do it. And it's just unrealistic for a lot of players to do. So going second is basically your only option. There has been a lot of videos lately popping up from people coming up with strategies and stuff like that on how to actually go second and win in Challenger, and so I've been doing a little bit of that, and I didn't really feel comfortable making a video on it too early because it was just kind of me following guides and stuff, but now that I've actually gotten a little bit more used to it, I feel comfortable sort of talking about it, and I just wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on Season 2 so far. In the next season, they plan on doing a couple of different additions. Right now, if you complete a difficulty, you cannot re-challenge or anything like that, which is really annoying. I think that being able to continue experimenting with the game mode, even after you've beat it, would be very beneficial for a lot of people to do some testing and stuff. Also, they're like the whole reason why they're making it to where you can actually re-challenge in the first place is so that way you can kind of speed run through it on a lower difficulty that you're more comfortable with, and then work on higher difficulties throughout the week. That way you're not just like limiting yourself on rewards or like pressed for time or anything like that, which I think is going to be very, very helpful. The rewards, I would say, I think they need to be reworked still. I would love if the top reward was 25 coins, and I know that that would increase it by 10. That's not like a huge deal or anything in my opinion, but I think that the rewards need to cascade down a little bit more consistently. So down here at the bottom you can see that you get 65 at the top of gold, but you get 65 at the bottom of plat. You get 60 or 70 at the top of plat. You get 70 at the bottom of masters. I think that it should still do that. So I think realistically it should be 25 at the top here, 22 at the bottom, 22 at the top, and then so on and so forth. Kind of continue that trend going down. That way more people can get more LR coins. It feels really dumb in a way because these lower tier difficulties, you're not going to be able to get basically anything other than LR coins out of the shop anyway. Luckily, because I have been able to beat it on the highest difficulty lately, I have actually been able to get, all of the LR coins this season so far, so that's really, really nice, of course. But most people aren't going to be able to get most of the stuff out of this shop, which is very annoying, I think. Because there's some really good stuff in here that you would like to get, but you're forced to kind of just buy LR coins at any cost. So, not a big fan of that. I think the rewards could still be used, or still use a little bit of a rework. The only other thing that I have a problem with is the seasonal characters. Although these seasonal characters are working fantastic, and they're basically the only reason I'm able to beat Challenger going second, the problem that I have with it is that it's all the newest units. This is really stupid to me. They should not do it like this. When I used to play Dragon Ball Legends, they had a similar system where basically anytime a new character would come out, there would be an event that launched alongside it, and you would need that new character to get the boosted stats to be able to beat the higher tier difficulties with ease, or you would just have to like grind really hard or just have like a really overpowered team or something like that, which is kind of what's going on here. In the first season, I'm pretty sure it was just like fairy race allies were seasonal characters. I don't know that it was necessarily the exact same boost where it was like 20% all stats, but I think they should either randomize and choose older units from different races, or they should just make an entire race specifically seasonal for each season instead, because this is going to force everybody to or like if you want to get the the highest benefit from Heroes Arena, you're going to have to summon on every single new banner during a season, which is just unrealistic. Free-to-play players are not going to be able to do that. I would say more than likely, depending on what banners are coming out, free-to-play players are maybe going to get one out of the three, characters that are going to be seasonal throughout the 6 weeks long season. So this is is just really unrealistic for a lot of players to be able to benefit from, which is really stupid. Obviously, like, I do get to summon on every banner, so it's very beneficial for me, but, you know, overall player base wise, it's not helping a majority of the player base, I would say. So this is really stupid to me. They should just make it more broad, more like older units should also be able to qualify for seasonals. This is just too whale heavy, just the way that they've got this set up at the moment. So not a big fan of that. But let's actually pull up some footage of my runs this week, and we will sort of talk about how I'm doing it and, you know, how it's going. So give me 1 second. Alrighty, so here is Tower 1, which is technically the last one that I actually did because I was waiting on the update for Margaret to come out because they were adding her as a seasonal unit. Initially, during the beginning of the season, Freya actually got removed from seasonal character, which was a big miss, honestly. That was really stupid, but they did add her back whenever Demon King dropped, which was nice. So, or like the week after Demon King dropped. So it was a little bit wonky there. Hopefully they'll continue going forward and have one seasonal unit either every 2 weeks that gets added to it, so that way there is a total of 3. I think that that's a pretty decent system overall, just because it's going to make it to where the beginning of the season is going to be a little bit tougher, but the later parts of the season where there's more seasonal characters is going to be a little bit more accessible, so that way the people who do actually want to have a really hard game mode and like do want the challenge of like finding these going second teams and stuff like that that can work, you know, you're still going to have that sort of like fun part of the game, whereas you know, people who are just kind of waiting on the seasonal buffs to sort of breeze through it a little bit easier are going to be able to benefit towards the end of the season and still be able to get some good rewards, whether or not it's like, you know, max rewards is, you know, going to be determined on whether your account is good enough or you have these teams or whatever the case may be. But basically the way that this is working is with all 3 seasonal characters, I basically have one for each team, which is fantastic. I have an Angel team now with Margaret, who's seasonal boosted, so 20% all stats is literally no joke. Like that it's so good that it makes the fights like incredibly easier. Which the Angel team, I was able to use it for the last 2 weeks as well without having a seasonal boosted unit, just because the Angel teams can't be lowered by stats, and instead of using Margaret, you actually use Sariel instead. But the basic idea here is that you're going to be running either HP defense on people, but ideally you would want to swap the defense pieces out for its crit resistance. Or crit defense pieces with crit defense rolls on it. So you're still going to be taking a lot of damage because these characters are really high CC'd, and some of the gimmicks and stuff like that people use in Guild Wars, which is where they take these teams from, are pretty corny and cheesy, and they just work. So it makes sense that this is kind of what you're wanting to go up against. But honestly, with the seasonal buffs from Margaret, you just do so much more damage. I was not doing maybe as much as I was expecting to. I was kind of expecting to maybe kill off a unit or something with the Mael AoE here, because he's on attack crit actually. But the idea with the Angel team is that you want to make sure that Tarmiel has the lowest HP. I actually give him the blue Tarmiel defense pieces with 2 of the crit defense pieces in the middle, so that way he's taking less damage, but he also has the lowest CC, which is kind of hard considering that one of the characters you're using on this team is Red SR Liz. Because of the seasonal boost, you could maybe replace SR Liz on this team, but I was using her just because you get passive healing at the end, which is kind of what you're using with the team without a boosted unit with Sariel on here instead. So I went for the basic core setup of the old school team without the seasonal character, but just slapped her in instead of Sariel, because Sariel really doesn't do a whole lot for the team besides boost some basic stats and stuff like that with his Holy Relic. So honestly, her buff ended up being really, really nice because you can cleanse off and it still gives you attack related stats and stuff like that, so that was really cool. Basic idea with the Goddess team is that you're just going to be pushing for ult with Mael, slowly healing up with either the heal cards from Liz or pushing for her ultimate before you kill, so that way you can make sure that you are topped off before going into the next fight. Obviously some of these teams like the Ragnarok one have like damage cap, which can be a little bit annoying, and even later on in the fight, I think on Tower 2 specifically, the Deanne that they use in the Ragnarok team there has recovery rate gear and Tarmiel link on, which makes her insanely hard to get through, but on Tower 2 we actually use the Ragnarok team, which helps a lot with that. So the basic idea here is 20% all stats is going to help you just get more lifesteal, a lot more, stats to tank, more damage, more everything. So you can basically just stall for turns, use your regeneration rate and recovery rate to sort of heal over time, attack to get lifesteal, so that way you're also getting, HP back that way. There's just a lot of ease of use with having these seasonal characters, which was great. Obviously, some of this may depend on your ultimate levels and stuff like that, especially with the very last team. The last team is Demons with Matrona on the field, which is a little bit wonky and can be a huge hindrance, but we'll get more into that whenever we look at it. But most of these teams aren't really too bad. I think it really comes down to who you want to target. So with the Demon team, for example, I was told to make sure to kill Trader Meliodas first, so that way they're not, taking less damage by building up his passives and stuff like that. He's not doing a whole lot of damage to you or anything, and then you sort of just work on killing the rest of the team off while just life-stealing back as much as possible. The Ragnarok team, depending on the team that you're using, you can kind of pick and choose who you want to go for. Honestly, Brunhild ends up doing a lot of damage. Freya does as well, but she normally double attacks on turn 1 against Tarmiel, so she disables herself. So I try to go for a kill on Brunhild. Unfortunately, I don't think I ended up killing Brunhild on this run specifically. I think she... No, okay, I did actually end up killing her, but she's going to obviously help gain Sigurd's passive and stuff like that. It just make the overall team do more damage in general. So getting rid of her is nice. In some of the more specific teams where you have buffs and stuff like that you don't want to lose, the Deanne ends up being a hindrance because of her passive, removing buffs and everything before she attacks. Mostly, it's just about, like I said, picking and choosing. This team specifically, getting rid of Rimuru quickly is kind of nice, just so that way you don't have to worry about the infect that he puts on, while also trying to work on killing these side enemies as well. Nothing, honestly, too crazy with this one. It might take a little bit depending on, your card draw and everything. The Angel team, on the other hand, can be a huge hindrance. Without the seasonal buff on this team, you actually pretty much have to reset anytime Tarmiel is going to stance. I just went with it because I was hoping that I'd still be able to pull it off with the seasonal character buff. I was able to, but with some really bad card draw, it looked super dicey for a while. But the basic idea with this one is you want to try to kill Margaret off as quickly as possible, so that way they can't cleanse, they're not getting boosts out of her passive or anything like that, and then you want to slowly pick off the rest of the team. This Liz can be kind of annoying because obviously you're going to sort of get that passive heal that she has after they use 6 cards, which can be definitely a hindrance, but at the end of the day, it's just about your card draw. Maybe pushing for ultimates and stuff like that makes it a little bit more consistent, but getting rid of Margaret, just trying to make sure that if you think you're going to lose, trying to at least kill one character on the board so that way you can maybe out CC with your next team. I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of different things that you kind of have to sort of worry about while, trying to prepare for the next fights as well. So this one looked really tough. I did not get my L cards for a while. Luckily, Liz was disabled when she used her ultimate, so it didn't do too much damage, and she didn't have to put on her revive or anything like that. Tarmiel is really nice for that, so you can kind of still stall for like one full turn before they're even able to get their ultimates off, but luckily I was finally able to pull some Mael cards here and start whittling them down, and then I was able to just ult through. The Catastrophe team, on the other hand, is a little bit interesting. You could see that they actually killed off my Liz here. They just have a lot of damage, but if you can get rid of the blue mono, she has most of the stats on the team, so if you can actually kill her off, it makes the rest of the team hit, not as hard, and they're not going to have as much stats, so they should be a little bit squishier as well. So getting rid of her and then just sort of working on the damage dealers as you go through will help a lot. You might have to worry about Lilia a little bit because her ultimate actually does buff removal, so depending on the team that you're using, you could run into some issues there. But that is pretty much it for the Angel team. Let's hop over to the middle tower, which was Ragnarok. So, with the Ragnarok team, this was the setup that I went for. This is the pretty normal setup, I think. I think everybody was kind of using this. Tyr AoE does insane damage. You can basically just lifesteal him back up to full no matter what. I did end up putting on, I think I end up showing the gear here. Tyr, because he has that turn 1 taunt, you're going to want to try to make sure that he actually has the crit defense gear on, so that way as they're attacking him, he's going to take less damage from the crits, and then you'll still be able to do some decent damage with the attack pieces. And because you're getting a 20% all stats boost, you don't have to worry about anything else too crazy. He's the only one that I put crit defense gear on with this team. Everybody else is on attack, or these two are on attack, and then the last one is actually on HP defense, because some of the enemies, namely the green Deanne from the Ragnarok team, will actually focus on Nanashi, which is kind of annoying because he's a little squishy. But you do kind of want to worry about card sets as well. I should have mentioned that in the first set. There's a goddess card set that gives you basic stats. It's only like 3% or something like that, but every little bit helps in a game mode like this. So using that one, the Ragnarok card sets aren't as good because they rely on you having to either have like buffs on the enemy or debuffs or something like that. But like I said, every little bit helps, but this team just does so much damage in general, it's really not too bad. This first team is really not hard at all, I would say. Like, you can really just, you'll see once I use my my Tyr AoE here, like, the Tyr AoE literally just carries you through this entire fight. You basically, with a team like this, because Nanashi is going to be taking a decent amount of damage, you just AoE, get rid of the big damage dealers with the Freya cards, and then you can just use Nanashi cards as you get them to sort of try to lifesteal his Despair card. If it crits, it'll actually gain a pretty decent amount of HP back, but King does like almost no damage, so leaving him alive is kind of nice because he's just not going to do much to you, and you can kind of just passive heal, move cards around, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you're topped off before going into the next phase. This one's not too bad because he's using this green Liz instead of like a more interesting Liz, just trying to, like I said in the first one, go for Margaret so that way they can't do any crazy stat boost. Actually, this was insane. One singular Tyr card here was enough to absolutely wipe the entire team, which I thought was actually crazy. Like, I was actually scared that I killed them too fast because the damage on my team was a little bit higher than I was hoping for, so I'm losing a decent amount of HP going into this next fight. This one is a little bit interesting. The demon team is, you can see I'm circling Melly there. This demon team is not too bad, but Melly can build up and do a lot of damage to you, so he is like priority number 1. Surprisingly, the Chandler and the Melascula can do some pretty decent damage with their attack cards, but Zeldris basically doesn't do much of anything, so you can kind of just whittle down the rest of the team after you end up getting rid of Melly, which I think is literally just an AoE here and then double Freya card on him. I think I even killed him with one single Freya card, actually, this one. So I think in the previous week I had to use both cards, but I end up getting rid of basically everybody but Zeldris. And then at this point, because Zeldris isn't doing a whole lot of damage to you, you can either just spam Nanashi cards so he gets HP back, or you can just move cards around, get some passive healing at the same time, and then finish him off with Nanashi to get as much HP back as possible. So, like I said in the previous one, Ragnarok can be a huge hindrance just because of the fact that this Deanne has Tarmio Link and recovery rate gear on. So the idea here is to just kill off the entire rest of the team. And then, as you can see, I took a lot of damage from the AoEs and stuff that they use, but I get rid of Brunhild here, so that way I don't have to worry about her doing crazy damage. Then I start working on Freya, then I kill Sigurd off, and then you basically just keep attacking with characters as much as you want on Deanne to lifesteal back up to full, but because she's going to recovery rate back all of her HP, you can't kill her without actually getting Freyr's ultimate, and then just using that to finish off the fight. So you basically just kill everybody else off, and then once she's the only one left, you just attack into her as much as you want to lifesteal HP back, and then you get the ultimate on Freyr, burst her down, easy peasy, good to go. So this one wasn't actually too bad. It just, it can be a little scary if she attacks into Nanashi too many times. He could take a lot of damage, but once you get her down to by herself, she's not going to be doing crazy damage each turn, so it can kind of, not be as bad. This unknown team pretty easy overall, I would say. I mean, you have Tyr, who is type advantage on these characters. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I kill anybody off with the AoE itself, but Nanashi does give a lot of stat boosting to this team, so making sure that you get rid of him ASAP and then just whittling down the rest of the team is easy peasy here. Even if you lose a character on this one, it shouldn't be too bad, because I mean, they can deal some decent damage, but this is the last team, so as long as you can kill them off, you're pretty much good to go. So that is the Ragnarok team. Honestly, I would say it is the smoothest out of any of them. It's just so much stats on the Unknown team in general, and they just synergize so well. You're doing incredible amounts of damage. It makes it really easy, actually. And last but not least, we have the Demon team here. So the Demon team is going to be a little bit more interesting. I give... So the team is this. You have Demon King, Purgatory Melee, Melascula, and Matrona, but you're going to take the gear off of Matrona, and you're going to give the crit resistance rolls, or crit defense gear, sorry, I keep saying crit resistance, but crit defense gear to Melascula, so she's not taking too much damage. She can actually inhale to get most of her HP back, and I'm pretty sure I end up giving Melee and... Demon King stays on HP defense just because that's the only set I have for him. Melee ends up going attack crit because you're going to be using him for a lot of your damage here. And then I think I just use a Demon card set. I don't know if I showed it in this little pre-section here. I did. It is the Demon Allies damage dealt to other races is 8% and then decreases damage taken by 4%. So that can help a little bit as well, just tanking a little bit. The idea here is that you are a little bit rushed, because they're going to kill off the Matrona because she has the lowest HP because she's got no gear on. But Melascula is going to keep her in check because of her passive with the revive. It's going to last for 3 turns. So because Matrona is stuck at 1 HP, her passive is going to make it to where the rest of your team is, like, I think they just gain a huge amount of recovery rate, if I'm not mistaken. So you just get a lot of passive healing here. They're attacking you a lot, so you can get your true magic popped on Melee quite a bit. The only hindrance with this one is that RNG can kind of screw you a little bit if you don't pull the right cards, but depending on how good your Demon King is, you can basically just rush ult with him and then use his ultimate to disable all of the enemy's cards anyway, basically, and stall them out for 2 turns, and then use that time to sort of build up cards, whittle off the enemies as much as possible. But you're either going to go for Meliodas' ultimate or Demon King's ultimate. My Melee's only 2/6 actually, so he doesn't always one-shot with an ultimate, even with true magic, which is really annoying sometimes, but it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Just kind of playing off of each other and trying your best is basically all you can do. This one is a little bit more RNG heavy, but with a seasonal character, it does make it a little bit easier, of course. Doing this one without a seasonal character was pretty tough. Normally, I would end up losing this team around the 3rd fight and having to swap to sort of like an assault melee backup team to even be able to finish out the week with it. So, like I said, just going for normal sort of setups, trying to kill off the characters that you typically would. I don't know why I ended up leaving the Brunhild for last on this one, but I did, I guess. But yeah, just trying to make sure that you're topped off on the rest of your characters as much as possible, because they're going to kill off the Matrona basically at the beginning of every single turn. Here is, I think I end up... do I end up resetting on this? I don't guess I did. I guess because I had a seasonal, I was a little bit more confident, and I think I just all in on Tarmiel to try to get rid of him. He does end up taking a decent amount of damage, and I can kind of end up killing him off on turn 2, if I'm not mistaken. Demon King does pop stats pretty quickly. I was really hoping that this was going to kill the Margaret there, so that way I could just go ahead and not have to worry about her cleansing and stat boosting or anything like that, but I was just shy. But yeah, you literally pop stats on Demon King turn 2. If I had attack crit on him like I should for something like this, I definitely would have killed there, but I pushed his ultimate, made it to where I can just basically disable them. So that way they literally can't use any of their cards, and then I'm good to go. I actually had an AoE with Melee, which finished them off. So there is that, chance that you gotta kill them within like 3 turns of them popping the Melascula buff on Matrona, or else she's gonna end up dying and the team's gonna fall apart a little bit. So you gotta be very careful with that. But target the right characters for each team, make sure that you're just whittling them down as quickly as possible, and you should be in a pretty decent position. Every once in a while, they will actually target some of your other characters, but you can actually just taunt with Matrona if you want to. I don't think I taunted the whole time just because I was pushing so much damage. I was trying to make sure that I just got it over with because I was going to lifesteal a lot of HP back anyway. I just didn't really focus on the taunt too much, but that could be an issue if, your other characters end up taking too much damage. If any of these characters die, you're basically going to be screwed. So make sure that doesn't happen if at all possible. The Rimuru here was a little bit scary just because he infects and attacks into melee. So this actually might be the one time that I went ahead and taunted, if I'm not mistaken. I don't guess I did. I think I just went ahead and pushed damage again and tried to make sure that I killed off the Rimuru here. We ended up killing off the Lilia at the end as well, which is really, really nice. And now that it's just these two, I don't really have to worry about them doing too much damage to me. So with the True Magic Cleanse, got rid of the Infect and was able to lifesteal a lot of HP back. It's just, it can be really tough. Infects are really scary. Weak point AoEs can be very scary. Just rolling with the punches and doing your thing is basically all you can do here. So it's definitely not going to be something that everybody can pull off. I have 13 million box CC and still struggle with it from time to time. Like, there are just times where RNG either just goes poorly or just, different things happen. The fact that I wasn't able to kill Nanashi off here was super annoying to me, but at the end of the day, I was still pretty good on HP, but having all 4 characters alive for a second turn was a little bit scary. But this is the last team that you have to deal with on this stage, so it wasn't the biggest deal because I've now popped stats with Demon King, and I do have True Magic with melee, so I can kill off the Nanashi, break the bubble, eradicate them to death. So it's a huge learning process. There's a lot to worry about. Getting used to it can be very troublesome, but just knowing which enemies to go for, a little bit of RNG luck. You got to push for ultimates and stuff like that. You got to be very careful because these characters do so much damage. But that's how I've been doing it for the last couple of weeks. And honestly, the payoff has been great because I'm getting closer and closer to getting LR coins and stuff like that, like at a higher rate, which means that I should hopefully not have to wait, for several weeks like I did with Escanor. But yeah, it is crazy. Like, going second is not fun, but it might end up being worth it in the end, depending on how fast I can get LR characters. So, yeah, still hoping they tweak a couple of different things here. Obviously, every little bit will help. The next season, they should actually make it to where you can reset individual towers, so that's going to be really nice, so that way you're not having to, dedicate an absolute truckload of time and effort into it if you just get bad RNG or whatever, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, hopefully they change the seasonal system a little bit, so that way it's a little bit more accessible to all players instead of just people who are summoning on every single banner. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on the whole thing. I know during the stream last night when we finished off Tower 1 with Margaret, I know there was a couple of people who said that they just don't even mess with Heroes Arena because it's so annoying, which is completely fair. It does kind of suck that LR is sort of locked behind this game mode, but I don't know. It is what it is, unfortunately. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one.